Hello, everyone. John Fenton here, the CEO Sensei. Welcome to my live event today, Thursday, June 10th. And I'm so excited to have you here with me. A couple of administrative things. We're going to be talking today about why resilience is not enough, being resilient is not enough. And I'm so excited to be able to bring this to you, some new information I recently learned, and I want to share it with you now in today's session. A few things we want to cover today as we go through this, our presentation today and our time together. I'd love to hear from you. So please like, share, comment. You can jump in, you can ask questions on the chat room. And I'll do my best to get to all those. If you're watching this live, that's awesome. If you're watching after the fact, that's great too. You can still comment and I'll get back to everyone's comments. If I can't get to them today, I will get to them in a short order. Also, special feature, if you'd like to come on screen with me, it's really easy. You go to this link, livewithjohnnow.com. You can go into the chat room. You will see in there the link that you can click on. It'll take you into the backstage green room, if you will. And I'll be able to bring you up on stage with me if you'd like to. If you have something to share or an issue or an opportunity that you wanted to discuss, you can bring it to me. And that's how we learn, right? When we share issues in our business, we learn from others and their experiences. And many times it applies to all of us. So love to have you come on board with me. So let's just jump right into this today. Let's jump right in. So what is resilience and what is it not? What is resilience? I was recently reading an article recently about organizations and how they deal with change. And I've been kind of talking about this really for many months since the middle of the pandemic, when I was listening to and watching and reading some articles by other executives, CEOs and C-suite executives, talking about what they experienced in the previous pandemic with the SARS epidemic back in maybe 2004. And this one executive was in Southeast Asia at the time and working and for many, many months. And what he noticed was that companies that embraced the change outperformed companies that didn't. What does that mean? Many companies were trying to get back to the way things were, right? That everybody was affected. Their businesses were shut down for a period of time. Customer relationships were lost. They had to rebuild their customer base, their processes, and so on they really were fighting to get back to the way things were before that epidemic. But other companies embraced that opportunity to re-look at their business, to look at their leadership. And really a lot of this applies to companies and organizations and teams, but also to you personally on a personal level. So they looked at, and they were looking at companies that really thrived in these situations and grew out of these situations. And so there's different types of companies, and you've seen them, I'm sure. You may have been a part of some of them. So there are fragile companies. Where they don't, a crisis occurs, they go out of business, right? And unfortunately, there are many businesses that have failed during this pandemic and other pandemics and other types of crises too, financial crises, recessions. I mean, I've been in business for over 40 years, so I've seen lots of different crises occur financially and others over the years. Actually starting my career out in a significant downturn and recession. And so there are some companies that are fragile. They're not going to survive in those situations. Then there are some companies that are brittle. Now, brittle organization is one that they adapt to the change, they try to adapt to the change, but it's hard for them to really ingrain the change and the necessary changes within their organization, within their leadership team and their mindset to really adapt and change for the long term. And so what happens is in the short term, they may make some changes and do some things there, but they end up failing. Their infrastructure, their systems can't withstand the change. And so they're brittle and they break and they fail. And then there's resilient companies, resilient organizations. And there are many, many very successful, resilient companies out there where they're able to, they take a hit, there's a bit of a downturn, their business falters for a while, but they're able to regroup, plan, and take their business to another level in terms of changing internal processes, adapting customer service, looking at their supply chain, that kind of fixing the situation, adapting, reacting to the situation, and changing what needs to be changed to bring the company back to where it was before the crisis or the chaos, the upheaval. So that's a resilient organization. These are really kind of definitions of surviving, right? Fragile companies aren't going to survive. Brittle companies will survive for some period of time, but not for the long term. Resilient companies will survive. They do survive. But there's something even stronger, more powerful. Another way to think about this. There was a book written by, I believe, Nicholas Taleb a few years ago called Anti-Fragility. And I've been reading up on this. I learned about this a few weeks ago in one of my conversations with a CEO, and we were talking about what is anti-fragility? What does that mean? And it really can apply to you individually and your company or your organization or your team. Anti-fragility. So what is anti-fragility? I think one way to think about it is, what is the opposite? So for example, one of my clients was relating a story to me recently where they had a division that relied on a certain raw material in their production process. And that raw material was produced by a company in Texas. And if you remember back during the winter months, Texas basically shut down for a week. Texas shut down for a week because they lost their power grid. You may recall that. So because that was shut down for a week and other factors that were going on, Suez Canal, some other things, the supply chain was disrupted dramatically. They could not get their raw material. And there was no other source to get it from in a reasonable period of time. And so their sales suffered and their delivery of their product suffered because they weren't able to meet customer demands because they could not get their hands on an alternate source of product, of raw material. That's the definition of being fragile. So that's a definition. So how do you make an organization anti-fragile? How do you do that? And how to be anti-fragile? And I first want to start with you as the individual. So think about, to me, it's about a mindset. That's a mindset, being open to change, being open to adapting quickly and pivoting, being open to open feedback loops with your customers, with your employees, your team, to get information. So it takes a mindset to really be open, willing to learn new things. There's a saying or term in the martial arts of having a beginner's mind. So that sometimes, when we rise through the ranks within the organizations and our careers, we learn a great deal. We have a great deal of experience. And sometimes we can be sort of brittle, maybe, in terms of what we want to learn or not learn, or that we think we know everything. So having that open mind, that beginner's mind, open to new possibilities, new ideas, new ways of thinking. Because in reality, each of us has a different experience in our lives and a different experience through our work and so on. And everyone can bring something new and fresh to the conversation. You really want to be able to have an environment where you have dynamic, out-of-the-box thinking that's adaptive, reacts quickly, and pulling the team together. And so what are some other things? What are some things you could do to be anti-fragile? Well, I think one, you personally and the organization, is embrace the chaos. Embrace the chaos. There's going to be times where things are going to be, way outside your comfort zone. Things you've never seen before. We've experienced this past 18 months, right? I'm sure you have. No one anticipated this. No one planned for this. And hopefully there's not another pandemic, but chances are there will be. And there's a period of time now where we're starting to come out of it, and we're not out of the woods yet by any stretch, but we are coming out of it. Business is picking back up. People are coming back to work. Our society is starting to get back to normal. And there's a situation where we can learn from what's happened in the past. Now we can just choose to be resilient and not really try to learn from that, just try to get back to the way things were. And sometimes, human nature, we want to do that, right? We want to get back to the good old days. Reality is everything around us is always changing, whether it's seen or unseen. Things are always in a state of motion and change. We know that. Quantum physics tells us that, right? Everything's always changing. And so being open and embracing the chaos and the change and the upheaval and pulling your team together is really important. And I think too, in addition to that, is have a clear vision of where you want to take your organization. Have a clear vision and then share that vision. Share that vision. The second thing I want to share about is culture and the speed of change. The speed of change is so important. You can be adaptive, you can be resilient, you can think you're anti-fragile, but it's about the speed of change. And what I like to say is, fail fast, but fail cheaply, right? It's a culture around acknowledging and accepting failure, hopefully failing small, but failure and mistakes are going to be made, but we learn from those things. So having a culture around accepting that's reality, that mistakes will be made, learning from that and moving forward, right? And so that culture really drives from you, the leader. It really starts with you. It's really about mindset and where you're coming from and pulling and rallying the troops around, the team around a common vision and goals. So a culture that adapts, a culture that embraces internal change and really challenging the status quo, if you will, the status quo. And that leads me to continuous improvement. You want to be in a process of feedback loops, of getting continuous improvement, data from other sources, challenging the way things are done, almost kind of and many times looking at your company and sort of disrupting the status quo sometimes to challenge and make things better, not just for the sake of disruption, right? You don't want to be counterproductive or counterintuitive, but you want to be productive and creating change. Now, you may think of startup companies, tech companies, young companies, they're embracing change constantly, right? So they have to be anti-fragile in that environment because they're always adapting and learning and growing and changing their business model. In any kind of young startup business, whether it's tech or any young business, and breaking new ground, right? And then sometimes we can think about larger companies that, by and large, don't adapt well to change. It takes a long time. It's like turning a big, ocean liner, right? Turning a battleship or something to try to, it's hard to turn that quickly on a dime, and adapt. So having that ability to be nimble and agile is so important. And if you think about it, actually in the word fragile, embedded in there is the word agile. Being agile, being the ability to pivot and change quickly for the better, and making good improvements into in the business. So continuous improvement is so important. Sometimes we may think about that. Sometimes we may not challenge that. And I think as a leader, it behooves us to embrace that and try to put some systems in place that encourages continuous improvement. And the same goes for you personally. I'm a big believer in continually improving myself in my work. And so seeking out mentors, seeking out opportunities for you to grow on a personal level and professional level, I think is really, really important because we're all learning and growing throughout the process. And it's really about the process. Continuous improvement to me is really about a process of having excellence in your organization, creating that environment of being anti-fragile. So just real quick, a reminder, if you'd like to jump on with me, go to livewithjohnnow.com. The link is in the chat room there. Also, please like, comment, and share, ask questions. I don't see any comments in the comment window right now, but that's okay. If you see this after the fact, if you weren't able to jump on the live today, go ahead and please like, comment, and share post-event, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can with any comments or questions you might have. And since I don't see anybody coming in, let me see this. So I'll just say this one more time. Here's my offer to you. Here's an opportunity for you. If you're dealing with some issues, right, or opportunities, maybe it's slowing the business down. Maybe you're not sure which avenue to take or where to head or where to go. If you're considering how to make your company more anti-fragile, okay, I want you to book a call with me. My offer to you is I'm willing to have a short call with you, a 15-minute call. That's all you need. To get on with me, you can go right to this link, bit.ly/ andy.fradel.com/call with John. It's a 15-minute call, and we can dive into some issues or opportunities that are most top of mind with you. And that's my offer to you, and as watching today live or post event to connect with me. I'd love to chat with you and learn more and see if there's some way that I can give you some information or share with you in a way that will help you in your business. So with that, I'm going to check the chat room there, and I don't see anybody there. All right, so awesome. So it's been great to be with you today. Reach out to me. We can talk about anti-fragility. We can talk about issues and opportunities that you face. It's a 15-minute call. We want to book it in the next few days, the next week or so. Once you've seen this, jump on there. It's my online calendar. You can book your time on my calendar that's convenient for you. All right, everybody. So again, be anti-fragile. Look at your culture, continuous improvement, embrace the chaos, and look at the speed of change, and make your company better and improve, and create the freedom, have the freedom that you want to have in your business. This is John Fenton, the CEO Sensei, signing off for today.